Hello 7th grade, this is Ms. Gardner, and this is your video instructing you on working on your mosaic. We're not going to do a paper mosaic, we're going to do a drawing, like a design of a mosaic. And some of these images you'll recognize because you've seen them in some other resources we've already got online. But you see a reproduction of a pretty traditional mosaic. Now you might not be able to see the pieces, but a mosaic is really just pieces of whether it's tesserae clay tiles or stones or pebbles or jewels or glass that are put together, little pieces, paying attention to the shapes and colors, almost like a puzzle, and putting them together so close that when you stand back and look at them, you'll see an image. Now, here is another image. It's a little bit easier to see. It's a design that almost looks like a coloring book page in a way, but there's no color yet. It has a lot of black outlines of kind of random shapes that have been pieced together to fit to look like a mosaic. And then here's another one that is a reproduction of a paper design that was pieced together. And notice the shapes are very organic and just handmade and fit together again, almost like a puzzle. And then, of course, color was added by the color of the paper. And we'll get to add color to ours too, but we'll use other tools. Now, this is a paper mosaic that was made from a 7th grader, and you can see that there are different shapes, like triangles in the background. But the main thing is that they started with a simple design for a border, and that's something you will have also, and then a simple shape. Doesn't have to be a block letter like this. It could be a smiley face. It could be any kind of shape, really, but keep it super simple, because when you start to break it apart into small pieces, it becomes naturally more complicated. So go simple. But you can see that their idea was an A. Okay? Now, here's a way that you can go about it. Let's say this is not a mosaic you're looking at here. This is like a basic sketch. I know it looks super simple. That's good. It's a good start. But you see a border, a thick border, like a shape, and then you have a simple thick shape. So it's not just a single line, it's like a double line with insides to it. Looking very empty right now. Now, here is a paper that shows you kind of about midway about the same design that has been drawn into a mosaic. You'll notice that this big long piece I would not consider mosaiced at all, and this big empty space does not remind you of a mosaic as it hasn't really been filled in. But over here you can see that this big bar for the border has been broken apart. Now it could have been long rectangles, or it could be perfect squares or some other types of shapes, but you can see they're fairly squarish. And then after the border, I'd say work on your shape and kind of piece it apart however you want to, and then fill in the background or piece out the background kind of after you do the border and the main shape. So the background's a little bit more of an afterthought, kind of filling in, like real mosaics, they do that. They kind of fill in the background and they kind of custom cut each piece to make it fit. So just want to show you that. Now, I have this on a light box. You don't have to have a light box. This is the first time I've ever used a light box to show people how to mosaic. If you ever wanted something to kind of trace your own sketch, you could use a window and turn the lights off in your room and put your sketch up, tape it onto a window, and then put your paper in front on top of it so it kind of, the outdoor light kind of shows through. I've even used, what was it, a lit up fish aquarium. I've used an old-fashioned TV before, all kinds of things. You can do that glow to make it a little light box. I'm going to put a little shield over this just so you don't see those words as much. Put this over it. And this is, remember, this light box is just to kind of help show you. Like you can see, the drawing is underneath there. So I'm going to mosaic on top of this. Let's see. I'm not going to trace the whole drawing. I'm going to think about, let's do something easy. Let's do the border. I'm going to choose just like squares. So I'm going to draw a square in the corner, and I'm going to leave a little space kind of skip that. So I'm not even really connecting them. They're not touching at all. Now I'm going to go pretty fast because there's a lot of border here to go. And I may not do the whole thing. And don't worry if it's a little bit, you know, one's a little bigger, one's a little bit smaller. It's okay. I could go all the way down. I know it's a big piece. Oops. I'm going to kind of speed this one along. But I am drawing the outlines, the outer edges or outlines of each little piece. Now if I was doing a real mosaic, I typically would do the corners, and then I would kind of center one, and then I would like space them accordingly. I'm just kind of going very randomly, so I'm getting some crazy pieces here, but that's okay. I'm just showing you a technique that will create a mosaic look. So there are little tricks on ways to kind of improve, have successful spacing if you want them to be very even. I'm not really worried about that right now. Ooh, that one kind of ended up pretty nice. Ooh, not bad there. I'll go ahead and just go all the way around. Now I know that you probably see the drawing underneath and it's a little bit distracting, but when I lift it up a little bit later, you'll see that these are actually just real spaces in between. I need to go faster here. There we go. I'll squeeze one right in there. Okay. And for this one, instead of doing squares, I'm going to do what the student had done. I used theirs as an example. I just kind of chose places I wanted to separate this letter, like I'm going to pull it apart. And let's see, I'm going to leave a space right there. There as in right here. That's going to be a space. And let's just say I'm going to break it apart right here on both sides. I think that would look nice. I'm going to leave these pieces together. That's going to be a pretty big piece, but I think that'll be interesting. You can customize your pieces. Maybe I'll make a separation there. And let's see, I got an eraser handy. I'm going to come back in, which is okay. Come back in. You may not be able to tell yet that I just erased that because my old drawing's kind of peeking through, but I made a space there. And I'm going to break it apart a little bit more. Okay, now in the background, the student had thrown in some broken glass, kind of like triangles. If I was going to do that, now would be the time. So let's just say I'm going to float some triangles. Notice that they're not going to touch. Now you'll be able to see this pretty easy since there's no real drawing underneath it to kind of distract you. Like I could probably fit another piece in here perhaps. I'm going to try to stick to triangles. Let's just say I want to put a triangle right here. We'll just have to find out how they're going to fit. And so on and so on. Little odd space here. I can squeeze a triangle in but leave space around it. So I'm going to have to get around a custom fitting a few of these. Okay, now I won't do the whole thing, but I think you kind of get the idea. Now let me lift this, see if I can get this off of here without hurting it here. Alright, so when I pull it away, you can see that there are real spaces in between. Now I would, let's say I finished that out, I would count that as a real mosaic. And I think we're going to run out of battery here, so I better show you real quick. Another way to go about it is, so if it cuts off, I apologize, but this is more of a stained glass style where you would actually trace, and again, I think the battery's about to cut off, so I'm going to go real super quick and see if I can squeeze this in. So I could actually trace this. So let's say I'm going to see how fast I can trace this. And then I'll just show you a little bit until my battery goes out. And then really with the stained glass style, you can just start breaking it apart however you want to. And then eventually thicken up your lines. Now I'm only doing a little bit so that in case it cuts off you get to see me do it, okay? I just thicken up the lines. If you do this approach, that is okay. It's a whole different look. It doesn't have to be triangles, by the way. It could be anything you want. But it's like you're creating this dark stained glass kind of border. Because stained glass and mosaics are actually quite similar. They're using pieces put together to create an image. I could have used the same old squares and rectangles if I wanted to. Okay, so let's see. Let's say I wanted to even just do some random kind of design through here, and I could thicken it up. Now, it gets a little busy looking. It's when you get to your colors, that's when you can make it separate out into maybe warm colors against cool colors. So you can use markers, colored pencils, or crayons. Use at least 2 or 3, I'd say more like 3 or so different colors within your mosaic. Okay, and I know this one's not finished, but you can see all these little areas. You know, think about how to use a contrast between darks and lights, and in warm colors like yellows, oranges, and reds against cool colors like greens, blues, and, you know, make things pop from each other. Okay, so I will stop right there for you, and good luck with your mosaic.